Get informed at contentdelaware.org.
Kate Baker Frawley. Hi, Kate.
Hi, how are you?
Well, and you?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for making it today.
Thank you for having us.
So, tell us about the Boys and Girls Clubs of Delaware.
Well, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Delaware is part of a nationwide movement. Our mission is to inspire and enable all young children, all young youth, I should say, to realize their full potential as caring and responsible adults. So what that means is, we're here for kids to give them a great future, to teach them, how to be good adults, to be positive role models, and that's across the country at the over 4,000 Boys and Girls Clubs there are in the United States. Here in Delaware, we are very proud and unique in that we are the only statewide Boys and Girls Club. What that means is we are not state funded, which a lot of people think. Statewide means that we are one nonprofit. There are 44 sites from Claymont to Rehoboth Beach, and we have one administrative staff for that. So it allows more of our money to go directly to the kids and less overhead.
So, Kate, can you give us some more detailed information about the programming that the Boys and Girls Clubs of Delaware provide?
We provide programming in a variety of things. Our first focus is education. So when a kid comes to the club, they do homework help, they do tutoring help. Once they get their homework done, that's when the real fun can begin for them. So we do programs in the area, again, of homework, tutoring, arts and culture. Technology is a big one, our computer lab, obviously our athletics, our gyms, swimming. But we come up with a variety of programs, ways to keep kids engaged, things that they're interested in. For instance, our club on Union Street right now is doing a DJ class. So every other Saturday we have professional DJs coming in, teaching the kids how to do it, how to mix music, create music, and we're going to end that with a DJ battle of the kids, where we're going to name them all the winners, but it's an experience and it's something they wanted. So we have our sort of overall programming, Smart Moves, our volunteer programs, but then we talk to the kids and say, what is it that you want to do? So we're developing music programs and things like that, but just things that keep them occupied in a positive way.
So how can the public engage with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Delaware?
There's many things they can do, but I encourage the public to come to one of our clubs. Just come in and see what we do, see the kids' faces. You fall in love right away. I don't see how you cannot. But there's many ways you can become a mentor, a volunteer. You can come to one of our events, sponsorship for events, donations to certain programs or scholarships. We have our summer fun club, and kids always looking for something to do in the summer, and it's a hard time for parents. So, helping a kid, for $100, you can send a kid to camp for a week, things like that. For $15, you can help a kid be a member. So, all donations, all time is a donation. There's lots of ways you can support. So just come to a club and ask us.
It's wonderful. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
This conversation is taking place at the Delaware Center for Horticulture.
We're talking with Hinton Lucas, who is Vice President and Assistant General Counsel at the DuPont Company. But today we're talking about him with his Delaware State Chamber of Commerce hat on. He's the new chairman of the Chamber's board, and my boss. Welcome, Hinton.
John, thank you so very much for having me.
Tell me about who you are. Who's Hinton Lucas? Where'd you grow up? What kind of education did you get? And how'd you end up working for DuPont here in Wilmington?
Okay. I grew up in North Carolina, a small town called Laurinburg, North Carolina, southeastern part of the state. I went to undergraduate at Hampton Institute in Hampton, Virginia, which is now Hampton University. I have a master's degree, and I have a law degree from the University of Dayton School of Law in Dayton, Ohio. And I am one of those rare birds where I have spent my entire, if you will, business career with one company. I've been with the DuPont Company for 41 years.
Tell us a little bit about how you view the chamber. You've been active in the chamber for some time, and moved up the ladder, and now you're.
I have been involved with the chamber on an active basis and ongoing basis for now about 5 to 6 years. I was aware of a lot of the undertakings that the Chamber was involved in prior to, but being intimately involved for the last 5 or 6 years, as I said, I understand and appreciate all of the different areas in which the Chamber affects. And I think it is by far the premier business organization in the state of Delaware, has been and continues to be.
How did the chambers of commerce have to be different in the 21st century than, say, in the past, when people like your company, they joined because it was the right thing to do? Well, you don't do that anymore.
Absolutely. And we have seen that in my tenure with the Chamber, that businesses ask that question. What is in this membership, or why should I be involved? What's in it for me? So that's one of the things that we're taking a hard look at, is to make certain that our members understand the benefits that they are available to them and what they can receive from their membership.
What does the Chamber have to do to appeal to the DuPont Company, an international corporation, and the mom and pop store with 3 employees? You're under the same umbrella.
Very, very good question. As part of our membership, that's one of the things that we do offer, diversity, because we have large companies like the DuPont Company, we have smaller companies like some of the mom and pop shops, but we offer, if you will, the same type and level of benefits to all of our members. It might be for different kinds of issues and et cetera, but let's put it this way. Some of the mom and pop organizations can benefit from some of the expertise that is applied to issues by way of the larger companies. And with accumulating all of this information and experience through the Chamber, the mom and pop shops will have an opportunity to benefit from that.
From your point of view, what are the both as a DuPont legal affairs person, head of the Chamber, what are the issues that are out there here in the spring of 2013 that concern you?
Well, paramount is the economy. Even though we have turned to some extent in the economy, but that's something that we still have to keep on the front burner, what the economy looks like. As well as there are other things, as you know, the Chamber, we still really concerned about, and when I say concerned, something that we definitely intend to take a look at, support education. We have to keep that on the front burner, as well as the environment. Those items have been on our radar screen, but they will continue to be on our radar screen because they are musts. So we must keep them there.
Talk a little bit about the whole idea of manufacturing in Delaware. I mean, DuPont's manufacturing in Delaware has greatly diminished. The auto plants are gone. Is there a future for manufacturing in Delaware?
We certainly hope so, because even in the DuPont Company, we're still looking at possibilities of how we can enhance our manufacturing. And I know, for instance, that throughout the state, the different organizations or different companies that we're all privy to are looking at those possibilities as well. So yes, I think, and we are really hoping, that manufacturing does have a future in the state of Delaware.
But it's going to be different than the past, do you
Absolutely
think?
will. Absolutely will.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well, you can see the different technologies, the different companies and the technologies that they're bringing forth. It may not be necessarily, quote unquote, the smokestack operations and manufacturing of yesteryear. It will be different types of, we talked about the smaller companies, the type of manufacturing that some of the smaller companies are undertaking in the state. So it will be that kind, but it still will be categorized as manufacturing.
Thank you, Hinton.
Thank you so very much, John. It's been a real pleasure.
You're connected with Content Delaware.
Dear Senator Carper, dear Senator Coons, dear President Obama, my name is Myra Walker. I want to be a doctor when I grow up. My name is Krishan Butler. I want to be a soccer player when I grow up.
My name is Kendall Roan. I want to be a police officer when I grow up.
We're at the bottom of our chart, your friend, Miles. The National Day for Social Advocacy happens once a year, and it's done throughout the 107 Freedom Schools that are currently operating. Usually the national office will give us a subject, like last year it was on voter registration because of the election. So to try to get the children involved and understanding that, they're a very important part of the world. And things that happen to adults are also happening to children. This year they've chosen violence and guns. So we wanted to talk about how guns were in their community, and we wanted to let President Obama and the senators and the representatives know how we feel.
There is gun violence. There should be a law to ban guns. If I got shot, I would not be able to be a heart doctor, and that's been a dream since I was 5 years old.
It's a wonderful program. Its emphasis is on reading, not teaching a child how to read, but what you're reading, you should think about it, learn from it, take from it, and then use it. So we want them to learn to use their mind, and that's what these summer reading programs are. And so that's what keeps me going, giving back and knowing that we have at least 41 children every day enjoying this program, and it's filling their days and their lives. They get a book every week that they have to read.
I have seen the confidence improve. For some, their reading improve. For others, their behavior is improving. They're good scholars, understanding what's going on. They're willing to participate and cooperate. And they realize that they're doing something important because they are important.
They were like, "You think he's going to read our letter?" I said, "I'm sure he will read your letter." And I said, we just talked about make sure that you put your name. And they said, "Why do we put your friend?" I said, "Because once he reads that, you're going to be his friend for life."
Please help my community. I don't like guns. Please help my community. And please say no to shooting.
Please help my community. Your friend Sean Bowler.
Your friend Sadea Lily.
Your friend Jeremiah.
Your friend Jayla. Please help my community. Your friend Kendall.
Thank you for reading my letter. Sincerely, Tyree Cook.
Ain't no school like Freedom School. Reading books is what we do. Reading books is what we do.
On July 4th, 1776, a marvelous experiment in democracy was conceived. With a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, its noble, if imperfect parents pledged their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to bring to fruition this heroic idea, a new government in which all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. From birth, the fledgling American nation was a lofty work in progress, plagued by a double standard that enabled even its greatest leaders to engage in the practice of enslaving other human beings. It was a cruel anomaly that would continue to burden citizens of all races for decades, even centuries to come. As America moved steadily down the road to civil war, those who supported the movement toward freedom stepped up their efforts to undermine the rights of slaveholders. Free citizens, both black and white, who viewed slavery as the greatest immorality of the time, openly supported African American initiative. Step by step, they evolved a covert network of conductors, routes, and hiding places known as stations, all designed to assist fugitive slaves in getting north to the Free States and even Canada. These pathways to freedom and the greater resistance movement became known as the Underground Railroad.
There was an often told story that it started around the mid-1830s after the building of the railroads started in this country. Some slave catchers were chasing a slave, and I believe the area was Ohio. And the slave ran away into a wooded area. And the slave catchers followed him there, and he suddenly disappeared. It was as if he ran away on an underground railroad. Well, it became a joke, but the joke caught on. When the abolitionists and the anti-slavery people got involved with helping slaves escape, they took that term on. And those who were helping slaves escape, they called conductors. These were the people who went right into slave territory and got the slaves and brought them out. And when they brought them out, they brought them to places where they could get food and shelter. And these places were houses or barns where abolitionists and anti-slavery people were at. And they called these houses stations. And the people who lived in these houses and who provided this information and this stuff, they called them station masters. And then others who became involved, like for example, they contributed money, they called them stockholders. And those who watched, they called them pilots. Any term that they used in the railroad, they used to describe the people who worked in the Underground Railroad.
Both runaway slaves and those who helped them faced harsh penalties if discovered. In most instances, conductors, agents, and station masters remained anonymous, and fugitives were forced to trust in information that was often hearsay, passed on in a whisper. That any first-hand information exists at all concerning activity on the Underground Railroad is due largely to the remarkable efforts of one historian, who is said to have operated the Grand Central Station of Underground Railroad stops. William Still was a free black man who first began work in the office of the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Society in 1847 as a janitor and clerk. His greater abilities were soon recognized, and Still quickly rose to head the organization's General Vigilance Committee to aid runaway slaves. His duty as chairman was to keep a record of every fugitive that came to the committee, a mandate that brought him into contact with more runaway slaves than perhaps any other person on the Underground Railroad. Still interviewed hundreds of fugitives who passed through the office, meticulously recording the details of their escapes. Years later, in 1872, he would publish these eyewitness accounts in his massive landmark work, The Underground Railroad.
William Still, although he was a free man living in Philadelphia, his family had risks because his mother was a fugitive. Some of her children had been born in slavery. And if she were ever found out, or if her owner had made a big attempt to come after her, she could have been returned to slavery too. So he was often leading a secret life. He had to keep the family history quiet while he was working. And he was at some risk of keeping all of these records too, because the records were clear evidence of this scale of help that they were giving.
William Still was at the hub of one of the Underground Railroad's most critical routes, the Eastern Line. It stretched from Maryland's eastern shore through the length of Delaware into the free state of Pennsylvania and on up to Canada. The Eastern Line covered a grueling distance of some 150 miles, made up of vast open fields, pockets of forest, and thick marshland. How did a fugitive slave know where to go?
They did it through instinct and the will to be free. And usually they came to an area, an African-American community, Sure, some of them at times were directed to certain homes of whites, whether Unitarian, whether Quakers or others, but on the whole, they made it on their own.
Now, if you were trying to escape to the north, particularly through Delaware, you generally came from the eastern shore of Maryland, or from the eastern shore of Virginia, or from areas further south. It was very difficult to escape slavery, however, if you lived in South Carolina, or in Alabama, or Mississippi, or Florida, because you had to go through so many slave states to get to the north.
Most fugitives simply set out walking to freedom. At the onset of the Eastern Line, much of the landscape looked the same, making it easy to become lost, or worse, to unknowingly circle back. For obvious reasons, most fugitives traveled at night, navigating as best they could through treacherous terrain and winding waterways. And in truth, many were taught to look for the North Star and to follow the drinking gourd, another name for the constellation Big Dipper. Group travel was discouraged, as it might draw suspicion.
Do you run away with your children knowing that with a child along, your chances of success were greatly diminished? Especially, for example, if they were babies. I mean, how do you tell a baby not to cry?
A strong individual might make as many as 18 exhausting miles in one night before sunup.
Only about 5% actually made it to freedom in the north.